Welcome back to another edition of our class of 2021 UNC basketball recruiting series here on TarHeelIllustrated.com. And if you're checking us out on YouTube, our channel Tar Heel Illustrated, I'm THI publisher Andrew Jones, and joining me is the man who is responsible for this series, our director of basketball recruiting, Clint Jackson. What's shaking, man?
How you doing, Andrew? I'm excited to keep doing this. I love this series. This was your idea, and I really enjoy doing the written pieces and also doing the podcast. So I'm happy to be here.
Well, it's been very, very well received by our subscribers and by a lot of people who are not subscribers to THI, which pretty good segue here. If you're not a subscriber to THI for just $8.33 a month, it's like a fat meal at driving through at a fast food joint somewhere. You get access to everything on our site. Clint's pieces in this series, the written pieces, are premium content. The podcasts obviously are not, but the podcasts are not a replica of what he wrote. We're filling the cracks on a lot of stuff. He doesn't always know the questions I'm going to ask, and it's a little bit different, but you can get a lot of raw stuff on Clint's written stuff, from his interviews to a lot of these different kids, to his pulse, to his evaluation. You get a pretty in-depth evaluation. And really one of the great benefits of being a subscriber to THI is you can go on the message boards, and I'll get a text message from Clint at 11:15 at night, or like a Tuesday night, and he'll say, hey, I just updated a board post. And it'll be about a class of 21 or 22 kid, some intel he's gotten. We don't want to throw it on the front page as an article. We stick it on the board because it's just for our subscribers, and it's really good stuff. But you got to be a subscriber to be able to access that. And we're not going to do a podcast about everything Clint writes about. But we are doing podcasts on each of the kids that Clint has written about in this class of 2021 Snapshot Series. And now we hit Chet Holmgren. We did a podcast about him about 6 weeks ago. But that wasn't what this podcast is. That was more what Clint likes about him. Clint's got this little fascination with Chet Holmgren, and he says anybody that watches him play in person would as well. And that's what we focused on there. We're going to do more of the pulse of Chet Holmgren and his recruitment in this podcast. So, Clint, before we do that, for those who maybe have not heard you talk about this amazing athlete, what is it about Chet Holmgren's game that you absolutely love?
Well, simply put, I'm trying not to get too excited when I talk about him like I did in the last podcast, but he's a 7'1" guy with true guard and wing skills. And what I mean by that is he moves, dribbles, spins, feels, and sees the game as a true, like he almost plays like a 6'6" wing, but he's in a 7'1" body. He's tremendously long, plays way above the rim, super athletic, blocks a lot of shots. But offensively, he's got the skill to play everywhere on the floor. And he does things in isolation settings that you see guys that are pros that do that sort of stuff. There's a video on YouTube where he puts Steph Curry's move on Steph Curry. If anyone has never seen that, you let me know if you've ever seen a 7'1" guy that can do that, and I'll hang up and listen to your opinion.
I've seen that video. In fact, I just saw it within the last couple of weeks. One of the things that sticks out to me, there's the highlight clips, which are fine, but every once in a while you could find a game that these kids play in, and then you can see their mannerisms. I love whistle mannerisms on kids, and you could see where this kid's got some screw you in his game, but also it carries after the whistle. He's just got a different level that he goes to in addition to his game, and it just carries it to an even higher level.
Agree. He's, people look at him and it's easy to judge someone when you first look at him. The first time you see this kid, again, I've used this analogy, I think 3 times. He looks like Daniel LaRusso in Karate Kid in his face. And then his body, he looks like Gumby. And I'm not making fun of him, but just it's easy to look at him and assume, oh, wow, he's not strong at all. And then you watch him play and you're like, wow, he's actually really tough. Not too many kids at 7'1", 195, maybe he's 200. 200 pounds on a 7'1" frame looks like 130 on a little kid, but he goes after guys that are 240, 250. There's no hesitation, and he absorbs it better than you think he would. So I really love his toughness, his mental makeup, and the stoic approach that he brings to the game. He's very business oriented, and he's not going to back down to anyone, despite the fact that he's got super slender shoulders and he's very thin.
I watched an interview about 2 weeks ago that he did last fall, I think with the local TV station in Minneapolis, and he said what you just said. He described himself that way. To paraphrase, I think he said, yeah, I'm the guy that shows up at the playground. People are like, yeah, whatever. If it wasn't for his height, clearly, yeah, whatever. But then he starts playing. They're like, okay. Yeah, I think he takes a lot of pride in that. And which is interesting. I think that's where a lot of his screw you comes from.
I agree. You know, he's one of his best friends is Jalen Suggs, who, you know, plays on the high school team with him in Minneapolis at Minnehaha. And that kid's a tough kid. His father's tough, and his father's got a lot of influence in Chet's game and his development. And this is a kid who was brought up to have guard skills and perimeter jump shots and all those things. And then he grew to 7'1", and the skill set didn't leave.
I'm not going to ask you the surprise question because I think we've already hit on that. Plus, if you want to know, go deeper into what Clint thinks about his game, check out our podcast. We ran it about, I would say, early, mid-April. And you can scroll down on our YouTube channel and find it. Or you can go on our message boards and scroll down. You can find it as well. Okay, let's jump into the pulse, the recruitment. There is some interesting backstory here from when you first started peeling away the layers on his recruitment to where things are now. Can you kind of take everybody along that path?
Yeah, I think this is going to be one of those recruitments where the folks around him, the folks in his camp, his advisors, you know, of course his dad's part of that, but, you know, guys like I talked about, Larry Suggs, there's some other people, Brian Sandifer, involved in his recruitment. These guys are going to make sure that wherever he goes and plays, whether that's college, G League, some pro option, wherever, they're going to make sure that the team utilizes him in the right way. This is a kid who is 7'1", and defensively, you know, he can guard a center and block shots and protect the rim and do all those things. But he's not going to be playing anywhere where they chain him to the post. So if you've got an offense that chains a guy like this to the post, he won't be playing there. And I can tell you with absolute conviction that those are some of the things that they're looking at. And there's going to be some concerns with, you know, okay, who have you had like him before? How did you utilize him? I think you sell this kid with the versatility and the freedom and the ability to play wherever he deems appropriate. If he's got a smaller guy on him, maybe he goes to the post where he can use his length and his size. But if he's got a bigger guy who can't move his feet like him, and I don't know anyone who can, even on the college level right now, that can move their feet with Chet Holmgren at over 6'9", they're going to allow him to go to the perimeter, go to work, use his skills, use his jump shot, use his footwork, and just use his complete versatile package.
There aren't a lot of programs that can say, yeah, we've done this with a guy like this before, because there really haven't been guys like this before. So they're going to have to quantify during the process. So how does UNC kind of fit into that thinking?
I think they've got some work to do. I think Roy Williams and the staff has done a good job to build that foundational relationship with Holmgren. Nobody's going to work harder than Roy Williams in a recruitment. I think they need to have some honest conversations with him about how he wants to be utilized, how they view him being utilized, and sometimes showing, okay, a lot of video, like this is how we'd use you. This is how we'd spread the floor. This is how we would allow you to isolate with the matchup that you have. I think that, again, I never want to act like I'm speaking for the staff, but just having those conversations with Chet privately and his dad privately, you know, at USA Basketball over the last couple of years, I think that's going to be the most important factor is how am I going to be utilized?
We've discussed on some podcasts, certainly privately, and you hear it on the trail, that Roy has more embraced the stretch four in recent years than he previously had, perhaps. Is that maybe something that they could pitch as well? Because Chet doesn't want to be chained to the post, as you say, and you could have a traditional 6'10" post type guy in there and kind of let Holmgren do his thing. This would be the next step as Roy continues to change and evolve, which, by the way, I've covered the man ever since he arrived in Chapel Hill. He's not as stubborn and married to one thing as people think he is. We've seen a lot of him adapting through the years. And this would be another example if that's maybe the pitch. Do you think that might be part of what they're communicating to him?
I think so. I agree with you in that Roy Williams has done a good job changing his philosophy on how he utilizes a stretch four. And you could use Holmgren as a stretch four. So I think that, you know, showing him how he utilized Sean May or Cameron or, you know, anybody like that, I think that he's going to say, hey, I realize that he's best used in space. I realize he was best used in these sorts of matchups. Showing videos of how how that works, and also maybe how he would evolve having someone like Chet, because Roy Williams has never had anybody with Chet's specific, style and skill set and size.
And again, very few people have. So while some, and I know that some Carolina fans I've talked to said, well, they don't have this guy to show. They can't roll tape and say, look at what we did with this guy, look what we did with that guy. But there really isn't anybody out there that can. I mean, the first thing that comes off the top of my head is Luka Garza at Iowa, just because he's a post guy who also has a lot of freedom on the perimeter. But he's not Chet Holmgren. He's an unbelievable college player, but his skill set's not Holmgren's. He doesn't break people off the dribble. He's a come off the screen, catch and shoot, or just shoot over guys in a half-court set type guy. It's not the same player. So I don't see other staffs being able to roll those tapes out either.
Well, I think, when you think about player comparisons, there's not really a dead ringer for Holmgren. You can think about somebody like Lauri Markkanen, who played at Arizona, as a similar type of player, but Holmgren's better. I saw Markkanen play. He's a good player. He's playing in the NBA. He's thriving right now. I think Chet Holmgren is a more versatile, cleaner skills version of Lauri Markkanen, and I think that you have to be able to show, okay, this is how we're going to run the offense. And you got to lay those pegs out there and show him how he's going to thrive. I think that, Arizona, if they were to get involved, could they potentially be a player? They could with the Markkanen video. But I think you definitely got to show, again, I hammered this point. I've said it probably 8 times on the podcast. He's going to have to be comfortable, and his camp's going to have to be comfortable with how he's going to be utilized. That's how his recruitment is going to be sold. And again, I wouldn't rule out, G League and pro options. I think this kid's looking for the best way to develop his skill set.
Well, before we close this out, I was going to go there because you mentioned it earlier. I know I'm not going to ask you to give odds. It's not fair right now in the process, but there are legitimate chances that he doesn't even go to college, don't you think?
I do, but I still, I want to see what the G League path looks like for these kids, because I think how it goes for these kids is going to say how it's going to go moving forward. If things go well, these kids develop, these kids get what they want out of it. I think that changes the game. So I think this first year where we're watching it is going to be huge. I do think pro options will be in play, but I still don't know if pro options are better than the college option at the high level and things like that at this point. So I'd probably say that college would be I know you didn't want odds, but I would probably slide my chips towards college. But I would still feel a little nervous that the pro options would be on the table.
Well, one more thing, and I think this is something the Holmgrens might consider, because once he takes that step into the college game, he's going to be on the college basketball landscape. He's going to be a big name. If Zion would have gone to the G League out of high school, as a rookie in the NBA, he would not have had the same kind of endorsement deal. People need to understand the value of him being in the Duke uniform and playing on that platform earned him, $100 million? Holmgren's the kind of kid that he may not get paid to go to college his first year and get a lot of money to go to the G League, but the amount of money some of these kids can make playing at the college level, especially at a blue blood where you're on TV all the time and you're built up and you're compared to all these other guys, they can make a ton more money spending a year doing that, investing in their future. And I can see a guy like Holmgren as the kind of dude that come into college and he's going to be an ESPN demand. He's going to be on TV all the time. They're going to talk about him all the time. And the aura of him, as long as he backs it up on the court, is going to explode, similar to maybe something like what Zion did.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's a tremendously marketable kid, because you don't see, let's be honest, you don't see a lot of kids that look like him that, succeed at the highest level of college basketball. But I agree, the branding, the marketing, the name recognition, all that stuff's going to help him in some different areas. And he's going to have access to some of the best coaches in the world at the college level. So, you look at schools like Gonzaga, you look at schools like, of course, he's got hometown Minnesota. He's got North Carolina involved. He's got Ohio State. He's got Georgetown. A lot of schools on him. I'm forgetting somebody. Memphis. Memphis is on him. So there's a lot of you look at a lot of those guys, those coaches. Those are guys that played in the league. They sent a lot of players to the league. Those are the schools that are really active with him. And it'll be interesting to see if more schools get involved. Like, I think Duke's had some surface level interest in him. Kentucky's had some surface level interest. I'm not sure with Kansas, but I'd be curious as to where his recruitment, kind of goes over the next few months, especially if we get to see some AAU basketball at some point this summer.
In light of the Last Dance documentary series that recently aired, I would think North Carolina's platform right now is pretty appealing if a kid's thinking along those lines. He's Clint Jackson. I'm Andrew Jones. You've been watching another Class of 2021 Snapshot Series. Make sure you check out THI because Clint's written piece runs one day, we're on the podcast the next day, and the written piece is premium content. Thanks, my friend.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Have a good day.
Thanks for stopping by.